recently, and I'll be representing the trade union perspective, also from a uh, basically from an unorganized labor perspective, and also uh, looking at the three codes from an unorganized perspective. Actually, it's four codes. Now, the four codes have been passed by the parliament and it has been enacted. And the other three codes, actually, President ascended other three codes on 28 September. And so those codes are also uh, uh, part of the Indian. That means 29 labor laws are no more existing, and that has been nullified, and instead of that, four labor codes are existing. So those codes are, as all of us know, it's basically four very broad topics on. First one is the code on wages. Second one is the code on industrial relations. Third one is the code on social security, and fourth one is the code on occupational safety, health, and working conditions. So, looking from the titles itself, we know how broad the subjects are, and how the labor situation is in the country is going to be. So maybe we all know the situation of labor in the country for a long time, what is happening to labor, what is happening to the rights of workers in this country. We all, I think people sitting here, all of us have a background of that. I don't have to explain that because the time is very limited. And um, so actually, a country which represents more than 93% as unorganized sector, informal sector labor, and a country which had only one act for the informal labor in this country, that is the Unorganized Sector Social Security Act, which was enacted in 2008. Now we sit here thinking that, or assuming that, or preparing ourselves to overcome the situation that the Unorganized Sector Social Security Act, which has been part of the labor laws in this country after long struggles of the workers and workers movement in this country, is no more. So that is where we are sitting now and talking about the codes. And when you look back to the history of the codes, it's like it started from the Second Labour Commission, where the discussion was started in late 90s, 98 to 2000, where one of the important discussions, dialogues in the Second Labour Commission was on including the informal sector, who are the majority of the workers in this country, in the labor laws, so that they are entitled for their rights as workers in this country. So that was the discussion, and the conclusion was that there should be an umbrella legislation for workers in the unorganized sector. That was the uh, real, or the core of the discussions that have been um, uh, taken part as part of the Second Labour Commission. And people have many assumptions about that. People say that no, Second Labour Commission recommended that no, the labor laws are very complex. No, ordinary people cannot access it, and we should go to simplify labor laws. That was the argument that was raised by the so-called official, means the state representatives, the government, and also the bureaucrats, with the support of the employers. Actually, employers representatives, we know that the labor system in this country, it follows the International Labor Organization system, standardization, international labor standards. It's supposed to follow that. And it's a tripartite system where equal representation of the government, employers, and workers are there in this tripartite system. But unfortunately, in many of the discussions, with the change in government's position, change in the socio-economic and political positions, employers gain more prominence in many of the discussions and many of the decisions. So that's why the employers have been asking for this change in labor laws, simplification of the labor laws for a long time, and that has been said because the entire blame went to the unorganized labor of this country, saying that they are out of the labor laws, so it's better to simplify the labor laws and include them. So that was a simple logic that was being used by the government mechanisms to justify or to explain this kind of changes that has been happening. And we know that labor is a concurrent subject. That means national means the center and the state has equal power in subjects related to labor. So many of the laws, many important laws which are state laws also contribute a lot to the rights of the labor in this country, and every central law should have justification in respective states because it's a concurrent subject or concurrent matter. So that is the system, that is what the constitution, the directive principles of the constitution also underlay, that concept of concurrence. So since labor is a concurrent subject, the center cannot directly go and change it. But we know that what is happening in the present situation where such an authoritative approach to the entire system, especially to the lives of the poor people in this country, the government has gone and started thinking about this 4 codes instead of 29. It was started with 44 laws, but finally it ended with 29 laws in the 4, merging in the 4 labor codes that we said. And people simply ask, let's simply ask, means because my task is also to say, because majority of us represent the unorganized sector, we may simply ask, what is going to happen to the unorganized labor in this country? Since this labor codes are in existence. So that will be the eagerness of us to think about it, what is going to happen. First of all, we wanted inclusion. We wanted unorganized sector to be included, to be represented in the labor discussions and in the tripartite discussions. But we know, for example, the code on wages, it was supposed to be a universalization of minimum wages. That means the government has introduced a floor minimum wage, claiming that or explaining that no worker, not even a single worker should go without having a minimum wage. That is the concept of floor minimum wage the government is saying. But when you look at what had happened and the cordon wages, the rules of the cordon labor wages is also published. And when you look at both the code and the rules, we see that it goes with, there are no explanation on what is the floor wage or how it could be calculated. We are in 21st century claiming for, not even for minimum wages, we are claiming for at least minimum living wage for a worker in the world or in the country. And now we are going back to floor wages, which means that the present labor notifications have said that it's almost 178 rupees a day. So we have actually gone back saying that universalizing minimum wages means reducing your wages. So that is the kind of approach that has been taken in the entire system in the name of universalization or inclusion of all kinds of workers, especially the informal sector in this country. We all know that there is no system to regulate the informal economy, informal labor in this country. There is no system of registration, and most of them have no direct employer. There is no visibility of the employer at many places. And in some cases, no employers are there. Many of them, majority of the people are self-employed, or they are part of the supply chains, or they are domestic workers or street vendors or whoever it is. Means we can see the complexities of the notion of employer. So this codes are mostly silent on these kind of new forms of labor that is approaching or that is becoming the reality. So that is something that we have to think as the first point, what is going to happen when you talk about universalization and you'll be excluding the majority of the workforce more and more. So that is the basic reality that is going to happen when the code on minimum wages is getting implemented, and now it is being implemented. All the main acts, like right to minimum wages, that is ILO convention number 1, and where it says that now we have 190 ILO conventions, and ILO has celebrated 100th year last in 2019. So after this 100 years, we are going and still looking at the convention number 1, which ensures minimum wage for a particular person, particular worker, and saying that the minimum wage act in this country is no more existing. That is the situation. And what is going to happen is that the same system, the main limitations of this entire codification is that the same system that was followed before for the organized sector is extended to the informal sector. That means we are not following the formal system anymore. We are, means 93% have the tendency to become 95%. More and more formal sector workers, organized sector workers are becoming informal. So, but there are no thoughts on how this is going to change the equations of labor in this country. So altogether, that structural or systemic differentiations are not taken care of at any point in any codes that has come into being. So that is what means far from, it is very far from simplifying. It became very complex, and it became what you call more, it is causing more and more exclusion. So that is what is going to happen in this process. And another main point is that defining a worker. In the Code on Social Security, there are 13 definitions for a worker. The country has no single definition for a worker. Even if it tries to distinguish between organized and unorganized, or employee, worker, wage worker, many terms are used in it, but there is no clarity, and in many places it contradicts. Because the main concept of defining a worker comes from a place where there is an establishment. That means there should be a factory or industry or any workplace. So the worker is defined as part of an establishment. But majority of the informal sectors are not defined under these establishments. For example, a domestic worker, we have been asking many years, there is a national platform. I have seen many of our colleagues in the national platform also participating in this discussion. We have been asking the rights of domestic workers, which is the 189th convention of ILO, decent work for domestic workers. For them, another private home is the workplace. So it should be added in the establishment, but nowhere it mentions that an establishment can include private homes. So that means domestic workers are completely excluded from all the codes. And people are saying that they can be included as wage worker. But because the definition of wage worker is there in in Social Security Code, but domestic workers are not even considered as wage worker because the employers are not visible or registered or being discussed at many places. So that means even tendency to bring them into the wage worker definition is also very confusing now. So what is going to happen is that when Code on Minimum Wages came into existence, we thought we'll have some hope in Code on Occupational Safety and Code on Social Security, which directly talks about the informal sector, define the informal sector, the unorganized sector in this country. But sorry to say that these things are not even discussed in any of this Occupational Safety Code or the Social Security Code. We can see that Social Security, universalizing the Social Security was another thing that the informal sector in this country wanted. So we claim one of the biggest, not one of the biggest, the biggest union in this country, the BMS, Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh, which is part of the ruling party, they upholds two labor codes, that is the code on minimum wages and code on social security, saying that both one universalizes minimum wages and the other universalizes social security. That is the claim. But people know, like labor economists, labor lawyers, all of us are continuously saying that it is not at all assuring minimum wages, and it's not at all assuring social security. For example, when we take a look at the social security code, this country had a very good mechanism to ensure the social security of the organized sector. And ESI and EPF were the two basic structures that were ensuring, that were two basic, very strong laws that were ensuring social security to the organized sector of this country. But in the Social Security Code, EPF has become a scheme, ESI has become a scheme, and it is not mentioned anywhere that the informal sector or the unorganized sector is included in any part of the schemes. And there's a separate chapter in the Code on Social Security, which mentions about social security for the unorganized sector, and social security for the platform workers, social security for the gig workers. So they have tried to introduce new terms like platform workers, gig workers, and other informal workers. The government has tried to introduce, and they are claiming that we have tried to include all kinds of informal sector. But what is going to happen? Again, that process, what had happened is that what social security measures that are mentioned in the Unorganized Sector Social Security Act 2008, they have just cut and paste those schemes into this, saying that these are the benefits, these are the social security benefits that are extended to the informal workers, like Jan Dhan Bhima Yojana, or the Ayush scheme, or such kind of insurance or policies that could be extended to the informal sector workers. And when in terms of ESI, it's mentioned that the entire ESI scheme cannot be extended to informal workers except health scheme. That means, and that has so many conditions, saying that provided there will be, if a person under, if an informal sector worker recognized under the ESI Act should be considered, they said if there are extra beds in a particular hospital, in that hospital, this person could be admitted. That means if you have something remaining after the use of the formal sector, the informal sector may be or could be able to access it. Otherwise, there is no ESI extension, there is no EPF extension, there is no gratuity extension. And another important thing is that Maternity Benefit Act, under the Unorganized Sector Social Security Act, we have been able to claim the maternity benefit, at least the state. Some states there was a scheme under the central government saying that 7,500 rupees will be given to the informal sector workers for 2 months. And some states have added to that, and 15,000 rupees, many of the informal sector women workers were getting. But when it came to and the country had a very strong Maternity Benefit Act, which included so many entitlements for a mother who is a working mother. But now Maternity Benefit Act has become a chapter in the Social Security Code, which means that that law has also no value in the present context. So that is what had happened in the process of codifying or in the process of simplification. Most of the informal sector workers in this country is being kept out without any benefits. They are saying that platform workers, we may think, platform and gig workers are some new categories of workers in the informal sector. That means platform means those who work under a platform, online platform, like food delivery or service delivery or whatever it is. And the government has brought a term called aggregators. Aggregators means those people who coordinate this process, either it be a food distribution or a service distribution like taxi or whatever it is. The aggregators should contribute 1 to 2%, but the code is not specifying how to contribute, where to contribute, what is the process, and how will you calculate that contribution, who could be registered under that. No, none of those kind of explanations are given under this, bringing the kind of inclusion of the platform workers into this process, because the employers are invisible in this process. So without trying to what you call regulate the employer-employee relationship, how can such a process be brought in this process? And maybe I just quickly go to the Industrial Relations Code, which is one of the core code that is going to be considered as, no, it signifies the rights of the labor in this country, because it has merged the Indian Trade Union Act 1926, which was the the root, the base, the nucleus of the Indian workers, which was giving them the right to organize and right to bargain for their rights. And when this act was merged under the Industrial Relations Code, what is going to happen? The right to strike is the first thing that is going to be questioned. We may not get any more chance to get strike. 14 days notice, 14 to 16 days notice is compulsory for workers to go for strike. And the thing is that once the strike is announced and the strike notice being given, the next day itself, the employer or the management can call for a conciliation process. Once the conciliation process is started, then the strike, if the workers are continuing with the strike, that strike will be considered as illegal, and it can cause even the retrenchment of the workers who have given the notice, or who are part of the industry, the union who has given the strike notice. That means strike is completely becoming illegal. There will not be any right to strike anymore. That is. So what will be the implications of this to the informal sector? If the formal sector is having such kind of setback in the code in terms of strikes or protest or whatever it is, then the informal sector will not exist even. That is what is going to happen. Nobody will look at informal workers when they are giving a strike notice, because it will not be valid, because it will not come under the terms and conditions of that particular sector. And another main change that has been, means that we have to notice that the threshold of workers that has been changed in Industrial Relations Code. It has been changed from 100. So what is going to happen in this Industrial Relations Code is that the threshold of the workers that has been increased from 100 to 300. That means establishments which are below 300 workers have no say in, don't have to register any kind of, whether they are paying minimum wages, whether they are paying social security, they are not answerable to any system. Means when the establishments are below 300. So that means, that has been the long-term demand of the employers to increase the threshold of establishments, the number of workers, to a big number. So it started from when Industrial Relations Code was discussed in 2019, there was a big debate in the Labor Standing Committee to retain the 100 numbers. And that was one of the main recommendations of the Labor Standing Committee. But overriding the decisions of the Parliamentary Labor Standing Committee, the government has gone ahead saying that no, it will be 300. Means below 300, there will not be any claims for the workers in terms of minimum wages, in terms of social security denied, in terms of leave denied, or in whatever it is, there will not be any threshold. And another threshold that has been discussed in occupational safety is about, that is where again significance. Now, informal or unorganized is considered as people, means when there are establishments with 10 or above with power and 20 or above without power, they are considered as formal work establishments, formal industries. But now here the threshold has been again increased to 20 with power and 40 without power. And another major change is that under under the Contract Labor Act, the threshold for the contractor was 10, and this 10, then it was raised to 20, and now the threshold for the contractors to come under the labor law regulations has been increased to 50. That means a contractor with less than 50 number of workers are not liable to any kind of labor laws in this country. They are not answerable to any kind of labor laws in this country. That means we can imagine the situation of the informal sector workers who have been employed through contractors, and they can easily show that I have less than 50 numbers and I'm not supposed to file any kind of measures or any kind of social security or labor rights measures to the workers under me. So that is where again the government is bringing out in the social security code, they are trying to bring migrant workers, especially in the context of the new changes post lockdown. All of us have seen what had happened to the migrant workers in this country. The sudden lockdown and the kind of exodus that the medias were discussing, the kind of the plight the migrant workers were suffering, and how it was like the medias and the public were thinking about in the case of these workers. And the government has tried to, so a slight change has been made in the inclusion of migrant workers in the Social Security Code, where they are saying that now, under the present Interstate Migrant Workers Act, means that have been used, the workers could be only part of, means who are working under contractors migrating from one state to another were considered as migrant workers. Now they have made a change saying that anybody who is going from one state to another, either by themselves or as a group, or they're going, if they are working under an employer or if they are self-employed, all of them are migrant workers. That is
Excuse me, madam. 2 minutes more.
Sure.
2 minutes.
That is something that we have means that is the only change that we could see post lockdown. The government has introduced that. But again, what is going to happen is that in a country where there is no system to register migrants in the origin states from where they are coming, means if they are coming from Odisha and going to Kerala, no, there is no system of regulation, registration. There is no connection between the origin and destination states where the migrant worker is going to exercise or assert their rights. What is the process? Without regulating the process of migration, you cannot define a workforce. That is something that is also going to be very difficult for the migrant workers to claim their rights in this process. So I think when we look at each of the labor codes, from code on wages to industrial relations to code on social security, occupational safety, means it's not there is no justification for the government to say that we have included the informal sector workers, because in reality, domestic workers or street vendors or migrant workers or platform workers, they are going to be excluded more and more once these codes are being implemented, or when the rules are coming. We have to look at what is going to happen. And I think maybe we have very negative assessment on the labor codes that have been passed on for labor codes, especially informal sector per se. But I think as the next step, what should we do, or what should we think about, or how should we look at it positively? Maybe because it's time for us, means all of all of us, means the trade unions, membership-based organizations, all working together for the informal sector to come together and seriously uh, 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 think about or deliberate on this process, start disseminating this process, means what is going to happen, the changes to the workers, even to the grassroots level workers, and come back and see, what could be the changes that we need? What are we going to talk against, and what do we really want in the name of the informal sector labor in this country? How could we intervene in this process? From the beginning, from the day one of the implementation, can we start thinking of giving suggestions of amending these particular codes, because that is the only option that we have. People think when a new government come, we can talk for maybe completely repealing these laws, but that is all the next thought of process that we have to think about. But at this stage, this is the only thing that wherever we are meeting, wherever we are talking in the name of labor codes, especially from an informal sector, and I think the rights of the formal sector is also being questioned. So it's time for the formal and informal to come together, but the informal has a lot of things to demand for in terms of social security, in terms of minimum wages, in terms of funds. That is the basic core that is going, because that will be my last point. We know that construction workers means the building and construction workers movement. They have shown us a great lesson. Means they have campaigned in the country to have a very strong labor laws, welfare boards in this country, and they have continuously campaigned for it. And one of the things that have happened is that this law is saying that the Building and Construction Workers Board will exist in the same manner that was existing before. That is something that building and construction workers have got, and that have been the result of the consistent struggles, consistent campaigns that they have been carrying out. And I think it's time for us, people from other sectors of the informal labor force, to come together and to have clarity on what we really want in terms of our rights, and what are the implications of that in the present labor codes, and how do we gather informations, gather our rights together, and work out it more legally and socially, and bring together a new form of codification or new form of rights, which is a long struggle, I know, which will be a revolutionary struggle that the informal sector workforce in this country has to take forward. Thank you.